There we go. All right. I'm going to pop out the chat window, put it over on this screen, stretch it out, change to live chat. There we go. Let's see. And boom, there we go. Hope you all folks are doing well. Happy time of day to you all. Let's see here. Got Blue 9 in the chat. Nick, how you doing? Mad Max, good morning. Let's see here. Leaf on the Wind, good morning from a much-needed rainy SoCal. That is good to hear. Yeah, absolutely. Glad to hear the rains have arrived. Indeed, indeed. Good afternoon from a wet and windy UK. Picking up lots of dungeon scatter terrain for Rangers of Shadowdeep. Nice. Morning from a thawing KCMO. Got my shirt. Nice. Looks like the ink in the description is to a closed shop. The link in the description. Oh, yeah. I suppose I still have the old. Yeah, I need to fix that, don't I? Yeah. So if you go to the website, everything's dark. Why is that? Wrong way. If you go to the website for Tabletop Minions, tabletopminions.org, and you go to the merch store, that merch store works, but the one in the description of the video that's like further down in the thing, that one doesn't work anymore. It's a good point. I gotta fix that. I forgot about that. Let's see. Good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. We're finally thawing out for a bit. Yeah, we're gonna have a relatively, we're gonna have a lot of days this week that are gonna be above freezing, which is very different than the way it's been for the last couple of weeks. Although, while I was in Vegas, here in home, it got way up into the 40s one day. Like, I left and it was 2 degrees. I got home, it was like -1 degree. But while I was in Las Vegas, at one point it was like 45. It just randomly. So I don't know what you do about that. Greetings from a balmy 31 degree Columbus, Ohio. National champs of something. I'm assuming football, maybe. I don't know. Morning from warming Tennessee. South Florida has sent our weather back, so we don't Wisconsin's anymore. I get that, yeah. I do not think I'll ever go to an inside show anytime soon. It always seems people get sick. Hope to hit the 40s today here in Norfolk. You mean like a convention? Yeah. I came back with a cold, but I didn't feel like I did. Like, I came back and I felt fine. It wasn't until Thursday night that I started getting a runny nose. And I was like, that can't be from Vegas. But I looked online, and I guess technically it could have been. But otherwise, I mean, and honestly, just a cold. It's mostly, I don't want to say it's mostly gone. It's not, but I'm not like running. My nose isn't running constantly anymore, so that's cool. Good time of day from outside Chicago. How you doing, Terrence? Smell coffee right as Adam's voice kicks in. I'm smelling coffee as well. What up, party people? How you doing? Pope Drod, how you doing? Greetings. Morning from Townsville, just getting past a heat wave. Nice. Good morning from Portland, Oregon. Good morning from Clearwater, Florida. Let's see, your voice sounds much better today. Hopefully, yeah. Let's see here. Good afternoon from chilly West Midlands. Morning from a gloomy NYC. I can see some sun peeking through the clouds now. Yeah, it's real sunny here today. I had to actually pull down a blind over there, otherwise it was going to light half my face with sun and half not, which was going to look weird. Let's see, Dave Edens, how you doing? Blake, how you doing? Hello from SoCal. Looking forward to seeing you guys at LVO. Or not LVO, Adepticon. Rob Carpenter, no Battletech, so I didn't go. Well, Richard Wong, good morning. It's time. Here comes the magic. Magic is maybe a stretch, but something, I hope. Yeah. First painting session in 3 weeks after battling with gallstones. Oh, yeah. My mother-in-law had gallstones, and it was no good. I think, yeah. I think they were gallstones. Yes. Rob Carpenter, how are you doing? Hope your cold is a bit better. You sounded a bit rough yesterday. Yeah, I did. I did the Every Other Sunday, or not the Every Other Sunday show. I did the Irregulars live show yesterday, and it was a bit rough. Let's see here. Happy days from Southern Alberta. How you doing? Nottingham. How you doing? Good morning from Boston. Finally back above freezing today. See, isn't that nice? I think it's a nice thing. Happy time of day, young man. You must be talking to me, I'm assuming, because I'm the youngest. Kevin Dennehy. Let's see. Good morning from Central Kentucky, working on bases and figs for Arsenal. Nice. Hope you are well. Tidying my hobby space while watching. Nice. I should probably do that as well. It's relatively tidy. It's tidier than it's been, but, then entropy. So, these things will happen. Where was the event held in Vegas? It was at the Rio. It's been at the Rio since, I want to say 22 or 23, whenever they started back up again after the pandemic. I think it was 22. And previous to that, it used to be at the Bally, which is now called the Horseshoe. It's attached to the Paris. I actually, at one point this year, I got a lift, and got a ride over to the Horseshoe / Paris, because I wanted to go one morning and shoot photos, street photography stuff. So it was nice to be back over there. I kind of liked the old location a little better. The location is nice because there was other stuff around it. The downside to the Rio is it's not near anything. So you have to get an Uber or a Lyft or something like that to take you to where things actually happen. So there's that. The facility at the Rio is pretty nice, though. That's, I think, one of the benefits. And the Rio's got a decent amount of restaurants and all that kind of stuff, and you've got a lot of variation there, so that's nice too. So honestly, it's not bad. It's in a weird spot, so I wish that it was closer. But going back over there and shooting some pictures and stuff like that, I haven't been in that area of Vegas since 2020. It was nice. It was a good time. There's an Alpha Strike group playing today at the FLGS, but as usual, I'm stuck at home for the day. Well, just getting over the flu, but organizing my latest eBay acquisitions of old metal miniatures, including Mutant Chronicles, Black Tree Design, sci-fi, and various sci-fi and horror Rel Partha. Wow, cool. Super nice in Vancouver, Washington here today. I wonder if Sam is home yet. Because on Monday, when I was flying back to Wisconsin after the show, Sam was not flying back to Wisconsin. He was flying to British Columbia. And he was going to hang out there with, I think, some folks from Creature Caster or something. So, yeah. Molly, how you doing? Jesse, how you doing? We're cleaning ahead of game day, and we had water dripping from a vent. All we could think of is it was some water that froze in the cold and thawed. Well, yeah, I suppose it could be. I saw a Instagram reel or a Facebook reel or something like that today about some area in China where they have 100% humidity right now. Well, I don't know if it's right now. I don't know if it wasn't a live video, but like just ceilings were just dripping and like everything was wet all the time. And I was like, yeah, no. Good morning from Arizona, where I'm hiding from the polar vortex. Did you sign up for anything at Adepticon? No. I'll be there in the Army Painter booth a good deal. I'll be walking around filming stuff. I'll be talking to people. I don't usually sign up for things because if I do, then sometimes I'm not. Like last year, I think I signed up to do a demo for Xeogenesis, and then I wasn't able to go because I just wasn't thinking ahead. So yeah, it doesn't. I want to figure it out at some point and maybe do a little bit of that, but I generally don't sign up for stuff at Adepticon because I'm usually doing stuff. So always more coffee. Good morning from Melbourne in Florida, not Australia. Gotcha. Good morning from the woods north of NYC. Nice. Pittsburgh, sun and cold. Naples, Florida. Gilbert, Arizona. Gallstones suck. They sound bad. What's the other ones too? The kidney stones, they sound bad too. I've got a friend who gets those from time to time. Everyone excited for Eldar releases? I mean, some people probably are. I'm not, but I'm just not a big Eldar fan, so there's that too. 21 here, supposed to get up to 35. Wow. Thankfully, the garage will make it warm enough to spray some terrain. Nice. You have to zinc up. Yeah, I always see that stuff at the store. I never buy it. I probably ought to. Hello from a beautiful, crisp Junction City, Wisconsin. Putting together some kill teams today. Hopefully the Exaction Squad goes together easy. Glad I could. Do you plan on building any more? Oops, something happened. Do I plan on building any more kill team stuff? I don't know about that. The terrain from Hivestorm, I do definitely want to build and paint. Like, I've started messing with it and clipping it, but I haven't gotten much further than that. 27 degrees Celsius here, though it is 1 in the morning. Well, that seems warm, doesn't it? I think that's warm. Good evening from Budapest. Landed not so long ago. Nice. Good morning from Toronto. Do you plan on building any more kill teams? Ah, yes. I plan on using some of the models, I suppose, here and there. I've definitely I have more kill team boxes and things that I bought, but it's going to be probably more for kit bashing and doing weird stuff, not for playing kill team for sure. Hello from Houston, Texas. Thanks for your recent videos featuring the Bamboo Lab A1 Mini. Pulled the trigger on my first printer, an A1 Mini with a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. Reading the 1490 Doom rules for now. Nice. Adepticon is moving to Milwaukee. It is indeed. This is the first year. It'll be coming up in, how long is it? 2 months, I guess. 2 months from now. Yeah, it'll be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this year, and probably going forward. They're moving to a much larger facility. They're moving to a facility that is more, I don't want to say centrally located because that's not the case, but it is located in the city. It's in the convention district. So there's lots of like restaurants and bars and things to do and see and stuff like that around the area. It's the same building that Gen Con used to be in up until 2002. In 2003, Gen Con moved to Indianapolis because it had outgrown Milwaukee. And that when it left, I would say Gen Con was probably at 16 or 18,000 people. Now Gen Con is 72,000 people, and it's monstrous, and it's almost outgrown Indianapolis, it feels like. That all being said, the building that Gen Con used to be in, back in the day, it was called the Midwest Express Center. Midwest Express was a smaller kind of local airline. And they're not in business anymore from what I understand. And then it was called the Wisconsin Center for a while. Now it's called the Baird Center, Baird. It's like bird with an A in it. And the building is twice the size of what it was when Gen Con left. It's monstrous now. They host an anime convention every year that's about 25,000 people. So since last year Adepticon maxed out at about 10,000 people, they'll have plenty of room to grow. So yeah, just hotel rooms alone within like I think it was Hank. I know it was Hank that said it. I just don't know if I have the numbers right. I think he said within a 3 or 4 block radius of the convention center, there's 13 or 1,400 hotel rooms. Whereas the old place in Schaumburg, there were 400 hotel rooms, but there were certain ones that the hotel couldn't let Adepticon people use because the airlines need them. They have to be always on standby. And then, of course, there's the stuff that like the vendors and the staff and stuff. So by the time it gets to you and me, like going to attend or whatever, there are far fewer than 400 rooms available. And then if you don't get one of those rooms, then the closest place is half a mile away. And then after that, it's all basically you have to drive or Uber or whatever, that kind of thing. So now there'll be far more rooms available within short walking distance. There'll be more restaurants to go to, like all that type of stuff is going to be available, which is really, really nice. Plus newer facility, bigger facility, all that stuff. I got to take a tour of it in May of 2024, and yeah, it's huge. Let's see here. Motorbus Jazz, how you doing? Afternoon from France. Currently working on some tabletop world models for a river. Nice. You ever play Blacksite Studio games? Don't Look Back, Violent Dark, Hamatsu. No. I've watched a battle report of Don't Look Back. Which of their games was I interested? There's a game of theirs that I'm interested in. I can't think of what it is. Well, I mean, I bought Demon Ship, but that's technically Malev, just published through them. But yeah. Keeping my hobby space relatively neat and clean is a constant. Yeah, no, it's difficult. Peachy Tips painted and showed an indie game based on the 80s show V. I'm getting it. Nice. Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about that yesterday. Warming up in Eudora, Kansas. Good morning. How you doing? Isn't 100% humidity just raining? You'd think so, but I don't. You'd think it would just be lake. You know what I mean? Like you'd just be underwater at that point. Going to start planning for Can Games here in Ottawa today. Game Master registration will open this coming week and planning on running some demos and games in Mobile Frame Zero. Nice. Is that the Lego one? Water dripping from vents is common and air conditioning may mean you need to clean out your filters. Otherwise, maintenance will be required. Gotcha. Meanwhile, here in North Carolina, it's so dry that the ice-cold drinks don't have any condensation on them. Yeah, it was really dry in, at least in my opinion, it was really dry in Vegas. Like my lips started getting chapped, which doesn't happen. Like living here in Wisconsin, it's usually not that dry, but it was really dry there. And of course, you're in a hotel, which is even drier because it's, yeah, it's a whole thing. If I go to Adepticon on Saturday, do shops already sell out on stuff before then? Any suggestions for the visit? Some might sell out of stuff, but it depends. I don't know. I guess we'll see what attendance looks like this year and all that kind of stuff. I don't really, like Gen Con is a convention you go to where they'll have like, not exclusives per se, but they'll have like, oh, this game's coming out in October, but you can get it now in August because we got a shipment shipped to us early, but you'll just be able to buy it in October otherwise, like in stores and stuff. And so then people will stand in line so they can get it 2 months early and pay full price. And you're just like, okay, that's cool. Like I'd rather do more stuff with my day than stay in line for 2 or 3 hours just to get something 2 months early. But I think a lot of them are probably going to take it and resell it on eBay. So there's that too. But, for the most part, coming on a Saturday, especially since you can just walk around and check stuff out and you don't have to buy a badge, just like shop from the vendors and look at stuff. That's great. That's a big feature to Adepticon is that they don't, like when you go to Gen Con, if you just want to go into the vendor hall at Gen Con and like walk around and buy stuff, you still need to get a badge at full price. You know what I mean? And yeah, they don't do that at Adepticon. If you want to come in and buy stuff from the vendors, make the vendors happy with their choice to come in, like, display stuff and show stuff and sell stuff at Adepticon, then by all means come on in for free. You just won't be able to play any events. You won't be able to take any classes, stuff like that. Then you need to buy a badge. But even then, the badges are relatively inexpensive in comparison specifically to Gen Con for sure. Your John Blanche Colors video, best YouTube one yet. That's what's your favorite from the new set? Well, that's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. I feel like some other folks made probably better videos, but that's nice of you to say. What's my favorite from the set? I love the 2 speed paints, Turnbull Turquoise and Blood Moon Red. The ivory in there, which I can't remember the real name of it, like the technical name, but the ivory in there I like quite a bit as well. And the Grimdark Shadow is becoming a favorite of mine when I thin it down with some speed paint medium instead of wash medium and then use it as a unifying wash. I like using that a lot now these days too. I usually use the excuse me, the what's the stuff called? The stuff from Sonic Sledgehammer, the marine juice. That if you ever follow Sonic Sledgehammer here on YouTube, which you should, he's got a bunch of great videos about unifying wash, and it's called Marine Juice. I think he's trying to call it Sonic Tonic lately or something like that. But if you find his channel and you just do a search on YouTube for Marine Juice, you'll find it. And it is just a unifying wash that's a mixture of 2 different wash colors. I think it's usually like a flesh tone and like maybe a brown. And then there's also, it's like 1 part flesh tone, 1 part brown, 1 part medium of some sort, and then you just sort of slop it all over the model and it kind of soaks into the crevices and it darkens everything a little tiny bit but not too much so it doesn't stay in the flat areas, but just a really nice unifying wash. And using the Grimdark Shadow color from the John Blanche set, and I either do it 1 part that to 2 parts speed paint medium, but sometimes I do it 1 part to 1 part. It also makes it's a cooler color than the marine juice, the sonic tonic, whatever you want to call it. But I do like the effect quite a bit. Kidney stones do indeed suck. Past 4 or so myself. I've heard about that, yeah. Well, not yours specifically, but about, the kidney stones suck. Like I said, my friend Peter has had that issue multiple times. And I hope not to. Knocking on wood. I haven't used zinc since the early 90s when they sold those fluorescent zinc things in pink and yellow and blue. I don't even know what you're talking about there. Fluorescent zinc things. For getting rid of colds or for fighting off colds? I think that's what they were talking about for zinc, but I could be wrong. Love the new intros and outros in your videos. Well, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that. I was talking yesterday as well in the Patreon Irregulars video that I did, the stream, that my plan is to actually use the same format for the intro, right? Where you have, again, the same sounds, and you got the image and the image and the image and the thing, and the dice rolling noise. And I swapped out the video, or I swapped out, it's a different animation style, and also it's new images. But I actually want to do multiples, so it's not the same one every week. It'll be the same audio and the same timing and the same animation, but the images themselves will change from time to time, and then I can just put different intros in on a whim, to keep it fresh. But then I won't have to go back and reanimate and redesign everything, hopefully. I can hopefully just swap the imagery, but we'll see. I don't know that I would do that too much to the outro. I think the only part is the second half of the outro where you see all those, that picture of all those skeletons from Curse City. I might swap out that image with something else once in a while, but we'll see how it goes. I finally kind of found a decent workflow for putting the names of the Uncle Adam's Irregulars, the $4 a month Patreon folks. They've got access to the Discord and, like I said, the live show and stuff like that. And I'm also putting their names in the at the end of the videos now. So yeah, it took me a little while to figure out the best way to do it. That didn't take forever, and so now I've got that kind of figured out. Good morning from sleepy Saskatchewan, Sir Adam. Hope you got some goodies from LVO. I honestly didn't get much. I didn't buy a lot. I swear to God, there's 3 things I bought, and I can only remember 2 of them. So I did buy a box of 4 Urban Mechs from Catalyst Games for Battletech. So it's a little box, it's a little lance of Urban Mechs. They're all slightly different loadouts or whatever. And so I bought those. I have put texture paste on their bases, but I haven't primed them yet. Probably going to do that later this afternoon. So that was one thing. There's a thing, there was a booth across from us in the vendor hall called Gamer Grass, which is not what you might think. They started off selling tufts, like little tufts to put on the bases of your stuff, and they've expanded into all kinds of things. And so I bought from them, they had a little clamshell package of like sculpted plastic rocks that you could then put on your bases. So they look like they're sticking out of the ground because it's only like half a rock as opposed to a full rock, you know what I mean? Would be So I don't know that I'll use them on basing too much unless I'm doing like a bigger figure, because they are kind of big. Like they're not going to fit on a 25mm base. They might fit on a 32, but you might be kind of tough. But I can see myself using them for terrain, like not just as a piece of terrain by itself, but if I'm building a piece of terrain, you want to have some rocks along the edge of a building, just dropping those on there, and then putting some paste, some texture paste stuff up over to kind of like feather the edges so you don't see where the plastic ends. That should be really nice. And then I also bought a package from them as well, same type of deal, but it was sandbags, little sandbags. So yeah, that's an option as well. What else? And there was a third thing I bought, and I cannot now remember what it was. Yeah, I don't know. I should have looked last night because I couldn't remember when people asked me yesterday during the Patreon show. So yeah. Let me see here. It's cold here today, but can't complain compared to the rest of the country. Phoenix, Arizona? Yes, I'm sure so. Let's see here. Good afternoon from Kent, England. How you doing? I'm the weirdo trying to figure out how to convert classic metal miniatures to have new weapons options from 40k and Warzone Resurrection and Warzone Eternal. Metal miniatures are hard for kit bashing, I find. I mean, I know some people prefer it, but yeah, for me, not so much. Hello from a very wet Bedfordshire. Currently 3D printing bases for OPR Warfleets and my Bamboo A1. Best thing ever. Nice. Why no more Kill Team? I thought you were a fan of that rule set. I was a fan of the 2018 version of it. Since then, of course, they have, because it's Games Workshop, they've had to produce 2 new versions of it since then. They came up with a version in 2021 and another version last year in 2024. The 2021 version I did not like. It was a pretty massive change from the 2018 version in a lot of different ways, both in the rule sets and in the way that you built your teams. And yeah, that was just not my jam. And the 2024 version is not a huge departure from 2021. They changed some things. They just clarified some other things, and it wasn't a lot different. And they've taken another step. At least in the 2021 version, you could buy the compendium and then at least use models you wanted, sort of, a little bit. 2024 now, they've gotten rid of the compendium, and it is all in, and you buy this box, and that's your force. No other choices. And I'm just not interested in that. So that's why I'm not doing the kill teams. My father had kidney stones and diagnosed and they revealed cancer. Oh, well, I mean, I hope he got better. Good morning from Hamilton, Ontario. Love the community you've built every other Sunday. Well, that's very nice of you to say, Jeff. Have you seen the upcoming OPR physical starter set? I've seen it's down in the basement, but I have a box of fantasy miniatures from them that are physical prints. I don't know if they're prints or if they're like COcast or what they are, but I do have a box from them. I ordered the sci-fi one, but I haven't gotten it yet. I left a couple of your comments in your recent OPR Space Weirdos video, but they were deleted. Is it because I referenced OPR's Patreon and Warband Builder app for Space Weirdos? Not that I know of. YouTube, if you put a link in, did you put a link into it? Because sometimes YouTube will get rid of stuff if it has links in it because they assume it's spam. But I don't, excuse me. I'm trying to remember the last time I deleted a video, or sorry, not a video, deleted a comment. There have been some, but not for something like that. It's been either racial slurs, which usually the filter catches also from YouTube and stuff like that. But in general, no, I that's not a thing. I left a couple of comments. They were deleted. Is because I referenced OPR's Patreon and the Warband Builder app for Space Weirdos. I didn't even know about the Warband Builder app for Space Weirdos. So no, that wouldn't be a reason. But like I said, if you did put a link in, sometimes that will cause it to catch. But sometimes then what will happen is then instead of it just being deleted, it'll be put into a queue on the, what do you call it? The YouTube Studio app. And I left a click through about 6 different things to get to held. Let's see here. The most recent held comment is from 5 days ago. And it was on the Fight the Hobby Tax video. And it says, OMG, get rid of this idiot. Pachow gone. So I didn't put that in the held queue. YouTube did, which I'm like, all right, whatever. But no, I haven't. That hasn't showed up in the held queue, so I don't know what would have gone on. I don't know how YouTube chooses what to delete and what not to, but I do know that sometimes links make YouTube squirrely. So, I didn't mention the Patreon in the OPR video, and I had a couple of people mention it, and I literally don't know why I didn't. It's not like I was like trying to hide anything like that or anything. I think because I back the Patreon, their OPR at the $5 level, not the $10 level, because I don't have a resin 3D. Well, I do have a resin 3D printer. I don't use a resin 3D printer. Let's say that. But I do own one, an old one. Anyway, so I'm not. I just didn't. For me, I think that if you want to get one of the games, it is a slightly smarter move, frankly, to buy it through Wargame Vault. And here's why. If you get one of the games or all of the games or whatever through Patreon, and then let's say you stop doing the Patreon, If they make a new version, I don't know how you get an update to the new version for free other than rejoining the Patreon, which isn't the end of the world. But if you buy the game for $5, $4.99, whatever, through Wargame Vault, you buy it once, and then let's say 6 months or 12 months down the road, they make an update, you will get an email from Wargame Vault saying, hey, that thing you bought, it's got an update. You should go download it. So that's the one benefit to not doing the Patreon, I think, if you want to buy a specific game. If you want to help support them, or certainly if you want the STLs, then the $10 a month is awesome. And I'm sure that's the way most people sign up for their Patreon. But yeah, that's the way to take a look at it. So I didn't mention it. It was partially forgetful on my part, but also partially because even though I do support the Patreon, I generally just buy their games because then they're in my library over at Wargame Vault, and then if I, I get an automatic update whenever they, update. Excuse me. Davis says, odd question that never gets talked about. What are the basics cost to go to a convention, i.e. what did it cost you to go to Adepticon LVO? Just wondering how pricey they can be. So lately, me going to conventions doesn't cost me much money at all because I'm going with the folks from Army Painter, because I'm working with them as part of the factory team. So that's the case. But in general, you're going to have to pay for travel. So whether it's flight, whether it's driving, there's that. Then hotels. Depending on where you're going, and like hotels can cost sometimes $150 to $250 a night. Some places you go that are very fancy can be very expensive, but generally it can be $150 to $250 a night in many situations. So if you can go with somebody and you get like 2 queen beds or whatever, you can split the cost. That always makes a lot of sense. Hotel food and restaurant food is never cheap. It's not cheap to go to a bigger convention, and it's also sometimes difficult. It's very difficult to get hotel rooms that are anywhere near the convention at Gen Con. Sorry. Gen Con, because there's 72,000 people going to that convention, is a real struggle to get a hotel room anywhere even slightly downtown. You know what I mean? Like last year when we went, I was not going with Army Painter. I was just going with the friends that I usually go with. Our hotel room was 3/4 of a mile away, maybe a little bit longer. So it was a good long walk back and forth every time you wanted to go to. Whereas other years we had been luckier and gotten like within a couple of blocks, and it's very easy to go back and forth. But when it's like a good long stretch, in August in Indiana, it can be brutal. So there's that too. Big conventions, Gen Con, Adepticon, Nova, Las Vegas Open, all of those can be kind of expensive. The most expensive one is Gen Con, in my opinion, not just in like hotels and all that kind of stuff, but also in like just if you want to buy a 4-day badge, it's the most expensive one. The rest of the smaller ones like Adepticon and stuff like that, they're all now again, Gen Con, Adepticon, Nova, and LVO, specifically those are all 3 wargaming conventions. Gen Con is a tabletop gaming convention, which has wargaming as part of it, but it's honestly of the 4 different genres: role-playing games, board games, collectible card games, and miniature games. Miniature games is the smallest. So Gen Con, I think everybody should attempt to go to Gen Con someday, but really only if you play more than just tabletop games. If you play just tabletop games, if you play just miniature games, Gen Con's maybe not as good of an idea. But if you also are into RPGs big, or also into board games or whatever, then I can see the benefit to going. The only reason I still go to Gen Con at this point is because it's a one time a year I get to hang out with a certain group of friends because we all go together, and also business. It's a situation of like, it's when a lot of people come over from overseas and stuff like that and everything, so you can have meetings and do things like that, and face to face. Show I'm focused on is Heritage Con in Hamilton, Ontario on March 23rd. The only hobby-related show I can regularly attend, but it is more of a model show than a gaming con. Well, that makes sense, sure. Lethally cold here. We're currently at 17 degrees. Wait, what? Oh, 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Gotcha. Okay. Keep clicking on it. I don't mean to. My pile of shame will outlive me. Well, I think that'll happen to a lot of people. Good morning from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I'm finishing my first team of Quar Crusaders. Any interest in trying out Quar? I bought the 2-player starter. I have built 3 of them, and I forget which side. I need to build 3 from the other faction, and then I want to use them as test test paints to figure out the paint scheme, and then I'm going to build and paint all of them and put them together. Because there's about, 9 per side, I think. But it's gotten to the point where they're actually starting to release the plastic tanks and things like that too, so that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if I want... I kind of want to buy and paint a plastic tank, but I don't know if I want to play with the tank rules. But, we'll see. But yeah, the Quar stuff is very interesting to me. Attended Gen Con in Milwaukee 2000 to 2002. Sounds like big changes since then. Literally from 2010 to 2015, that convention doubled in size. It went from 30 to 60,000 people in 5 years. Yeah, that convention definitely grew from pretty quickly. Lunar by Blacksite Games was the one you were interested in a few years back. Lunar's a cool concept. I just don't know that the miniatures to me speak to me. Is Last Girl them as well? It's not. I forget who does Last Girl, but it is a different company. I live in an apartment building in Toronto. The humidity here without a humidifier is around 8%. Nosebleed City. Oh, yeah. No, I can understand that. Yeah, I did get, I don't know that I got a bloody nose, but it was not great. I definitely had some cracking in my, lip a little bit. Not much, just a little tiny bit. If I don't run a humidifier by my paint station, things dry on the brush before I can do anything. Yeah, Vince mentioned years ago, coming up here to paint with Sam and stuff like that. He's like, stuff stays on my wet palette wet for a long time. I didn't realize that it was that much more humid in Wisconsin generally than in Ohio, but he's like, it does seem to be the case. And yeah, that's one of the reasons I think that I honestly think partially that's one of the reasons that Sam got so good at wet blending is because it's not as hard to do when it is not bone dry outside. You know what I mean? Adepticon during hockey season, I'd watch the Admirals and get my wargame fun in too. I love the Admirals mascot, logo thing. It's like a pirate skeleton kind of sort of thing. It's very cool. I've never gone to see a game though. My wife and I talk about it once in a while, but we've never gone to see a game. Peachy used the 5 parsecs rules for that bat rep. Anyone who hasn't watched it should. It's magnificent retro 80s gold. Nice. Been hearing a lot of good about Turnbull Turquoise. Yeah, Turnbull Turquoise and the Blood Moon Red are both really great speed paint colors. If I had a complaint about the Blanche sets, is I just wish there were more speed paints in it because I'm a speed paint fan personally. But we had all the Blanche colors at LVO except for the 2 metallics because it was Caleb Wissenbeck thought to bring his pre-production versions. Nobody else thought to bring, from what I could tell, the new John Blanche paints to show off there, but he did. But he left the 2 metallics at home, but he had all the rest of the colors. So we were able to show people, not just the Fanatic paints which launched last year, but also these new John Blanche colors and stuff like that, and people could check them out and everything like that. It was pretty cool. Hi from windy and muddy Wales. How you doing? MS Edge weather is showing 86 humidity. Wow. Sorry. Went to the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo last Saturday, which is mostly RPGs. And it was a $55 badge to wander around for a while and shop the underwhelming dealer area. Did buy some 3D printed sci-fi terrain. Yeah, I feel like some conventions charge way too much. Small conventions. I try to not charge too much with TMX. Now, TMX is small. Last year, Tabletop Minions Expo, that's what I'm talking about, my little convention, was 100 people. But I only charge I'm trying to remember what the heck I charge. I suppose I should know that. Oops. Tabletopminions.org. Let's go here. So this is the new website, by the way. This is the new website. I really enjoy this picture. It took like 3 hours to set up and get it all, but yeah, I really do enjoy it. Anyway, and then, there's, okay, so TMX. So you can either find TMX up here in the menu, or you go down here and you click on learn more about TMX. And then it brings you to, there we go. So this is the new TMX website, which is going to get a little bit more of an update in the next, probably this week. I'm going to be turning on not painting classes yet, but Game Master sign up. There will be a form here so you can start signing up to run stuff. Anyway, so Saturday badge is $18 and Sunday badge is $12, which I personally think, I wish it could be cheaper. I really do. And it would be, except that the location we used to do it at, which was more reasonably priced, stopped doing events. We used to do it at the university here in town, and we could get the room to do it for relatively inexpensive. And then they were like, no, we're not doing non-campus events. So you have to either be a campus group if you want to do it. It's a whole weird political thing with what's going on at the university here in town. But nonetheless, so now we're doing it at this hotel, which it's a nice space. It's downtown. It's cool, but it's a little bit more expensive. But it's still, it's $30 for the weekend, which is not terrible. But yeah, I do wish it could be cheaper personally. So, but yeah, like I said, moving to this convention center more than doubled the cost of what was going on. So that's the case. I'm not particularly trying to make a ton of money off of it. It's just, again, like the cost is doubled by moving here. So we can thank the university for that as well. But let's see here. Yeah. Main screen. There we go. So anyway, yeah, I can understand that. It can be kind of expensive at different, sometimes small conventions charge too much, and sometimes they don't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like they're like, well, this is the only place we could find, and it is, egregiously expensive to have it at this event. But yeah. JP Got Rockets, how you doing? What was the turnout like at the AP booth? Honestly, every vendor this year was like, it seems like traffic is lighter. Now, there were more people at LVO, but this year they moved the vendor hall. So the way the expo area, the convention area at the Rio works is you kind of, it's really far away from the rest of the place, which is normal. You walk past a restaurant called Hash something a go-go. It's like a breakfast place. And then there's the Penn and Teller Theater, and you keep walking and keep walking. I used the pedometer on my phone a couple years ago, last year, to figure out how far it was from, like, when I would take the elevator down, get to the base of the tower that my hotel room was in. I measured from there all the way through the casino, all the way through past Penn and Teller, all that stuff to the vendor hall. It was like a half mile. It's like really long. Anyway, so when you finally get down there to the rotunda, and then you start heading towards like the big giant room which is this, right? Which is where they were doing the 40K tournament. This year was the largest 40K tournament they've ever had. It was actually over 1,000 people this time. They've had in the past, they've sold 1,000 tickets, but then never had 1,000 people show up for the actual 40K championship for singles. But this year they had, the number I heard was 1,050 people actually show up to play at the first round, which is crazy. Biggest Warhammer 40K tournament in the world. Anyway, so in the past, like you get to the rotunda and then you kind of have to turn right, and then you go this way, and then there's the big gaming hall, and then directly across from it, there's this long hallway that goes all the way down, and directly across from it was the vendor hall. Well, this year they moved the vendor hall down further. So it wasn't where it was last year, and it was down a little bit further. And a lot of people think that in the vendor hall, or like it was maybe slightly harder to find. They also had like no signage for where the vendor hall was, kind of. Not no signage, no good signage, let's say that. There was like a map where you had to read a lot, but there was no like arrow that said vendors this way, which is what people actually see when they walk around at conventions. They don't go up to a map that has like 30 things on it and go, well, I see. Oh, that's where it is. They just want a big map, a big sign that says vendors and an arrow. And they didn't have that. So hopefully for next year. But like I said, it was a bigger convention, but it felt like there was slightly less foot traffic, coming through the vendor hall. But otherwise, I mean, we weren't selling anything. Well, I take that back. We were selling stuff. We couldn't sell most things at just like it's been since I started working with them, because Army Painter is a Danish company. They can't sell direct to people, to consumers in America. They can send the stuff to game stores. They can send the stuff to distributors. They can send the stuff via online ordering. But if they're at a convention, they can't just be like, here, I would like to sell you this paint for this much money or whatever. Because it's like a weird tax thing, but that will be fixed in theory by the time Adepticon rolls around, from what I understand. So I think that they like have to, maybe they have to rent a warehouse here in the States and then it's covered, or I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there's a thing that they're going to have done, and by Adepticon it should be cool. So we couldn't sell, like we had racks and individual paints and all the tools and brushes and all that stuff. We couldn't sell any of that stuff, but we could sell paint sets, like the boxes, but we weren't technically selling them. We were actually selling them for an FLGS out of Boston called Alpha Omega. So we had their like little Spotify, like it looks like a phone, but it's not a phone, but it's like a Spotify, buying thingy. And so we could just sell stuff through them or whatever the deal was. I don't know. But otherwise, it was mainly there to just talk to people and give demos and do that kind of stuff. That was the main point. But by the time Adepticon rolls around, from what I understand, they're going to be actually able to sell. You'll be able to walk up and go, I need this color and this color and this color, and then buy those bottles and walk away, and it'll be great. But yeah, we'll see those. Odd question. Are those new glasses? They look good. Oh, thanks. No, they're just my computer glasses. These are my regular glasses that I generally wear. These are the ones that I wear on the computer. They're progressive lenses like mine, but they're shorter focus. So if I look out the window, I can't see very far because everything's blurry out there, but I can see without having to tip my head way back to look at the words and stuff like that here. Also, they have the blue blocker stuff in it so that the computer monitors don't, hurt my eyes over time. So I keep them here, and then when I get up to leave, I switch to glasses. But yeah, they are different glasses. And they're different frames so that I don't put on the wrong ones. If I just got two of the same, I would never know which one it was until I put it on and went, oh yeah, no, these are the short throw ones. So yeah. Colored zinc cream sticks were kind of a sunscreen. Oh yeah, like the thing you put on your nose. Oh yeah, I get you. How did this year's LVO compare to last year's? I'm another person who did not go this year since there was no Battletech. I mean, Catalyst was there in the vendor hall, but yeah, from what I understand, there wasn't any Battletech being played, which is a bummer. Like I said, there were more people there this year, definitely in the 40K tournament. There wasn't much going on besides Warhammer, though, I will be honest. There was a War Machine tournament. I know that because I came across it at one point. And there was also, I think, some stuff going on from Warlord. I'm pretty sure they had bolt action going on. But otherwise, everything else was just G-dubs. Just G-dubs. And I'm not sure why that is. I heard a rumor, which I don't think is true, about like there's a very big, like if you want to run an event at LVO, there's like this kind of huge cost to doing it, but I don't know if that's true or not. So, but yeah, I don't know. It seems odd to not want to have at least some space. I mean, there is a decent amount of space there. I mean, there was, did I even see like, I don't know if I saw Infinity. Yeah, I don't think I saw much. But like I said, in the vendor hall, there was Catalyst because I bought a little box or a little Irby Max. Let's see here. Used your How to Paint Ghosts. My D&D group now has to face 20 new ghost models next Friday. Nice. Let's see here. Afternoon from a very wet Puckle Church in the UK, working on some Mantic Games Abyssal Berserkers today. Nice. Currently working on some Trench Crusade models. Any advice and recommendations to get a nice, dirty, rusty armor look? Okay, so yesterday, after I got done doing the live show for the Patreon folks, I went and built I think it's called a Shrine Anchornite, or is it Anchornite Shrine? I don't remember. It's the pointy-headed guy. So he's built, and I'm going to prime him probably tonight, because I still haven't. I was gonna, like, when I got home from dinner, I was gonna texture his base, and then we watched a movie instead. Well, we didn't watch a movie. We watched the first 2 episodes of Penguin. The Penguin. I don't know, whatever. The thing from the HBO on the Batman movie. Anyway, so I didn't end up doing the texturing, so I'll probably do that after I get back from lunch, and then maybe prime tonight. So that guy I want to be a metallic thing, and I think I'm going to try to paint him for a video, actually. As far as Rust is concerned, I'm a big fan right now of the Games Workshop Rust. There's 2 different colors. There will be a third when the John Blanche set comes out, which is like a mid-tone. There's like fresh rust and old rust, or dry rust, or dark rust, or something like that. I like the fresh rust. I don't ever put it on straight. I always water it down, though. The only time I've ever put it on straight is if I wanted to put a little bit on sponge, and I wanted like real bright kind of spots of rust, like really super fresh new rust, then it works fine. But if you water it down, it makes a really good rust wash that kind of gets into the crevices and then dries, and then it gets a little brighter there, which is different than like normal washes, which get darker in the crevices. But it's a pretty good effect. I like it. I use it quite a bit. Did you get LVO flu this year? I didn't, but I did come back with a cold. Well, I didn't come back with a cold. I got a cold later in the week after I got back. I got back on Monday night, and on Thursday night my nose started to run a little bit, and then Friday sort of sucked, and then Saturday got better, and then today I'm a little congested but mostly good. So no, not flu though. I've bought from Gamers Grass before. It's very good quality. I especially love their Alien Grass and Ultramarines bases. They have some really cool, like, pre-painted bases and stuff like that, if I was into that kind of thing. What do you think about painting those Urbies like the R2 units from the Phantom Menace? I mean, I'm not going to, but it'd be funny. I think it'd be pretty cool. Hello from London. Recently been motivated to paint. Feels great. Been painting the Toha faction from Infinity. Nice. Does anyone prefer older designs over the overly busy new ones? I'm looking at you, Phoenix Lords. Is that a reference to the Eldar? I haven't really looked at the new Eldar stuff at all. We are actually heading into a milder spell of winter, or of weather, above 0 for a day or 2 as relief from the deep freeze. Yeah. We're going to be a little bit above freezing as well, which will be nice. Someone mentioned a Boyle hobby time on the Hangout yesterday. You should definitely give him a look. This week's video is tied to his game he kickstarted at the end of the year. Yeah, I've never even, I don't even think I've heard of that name. Games Workshop models have become largely too fancy for me. Beautiful and great for display painting, but overly done for gaming by my tastes. Yeah, in many situations, you're not wrong, at least in my opinion. There are definitely some models that are still totally playable and not too hard to paint and all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of over detail on a lot of the models these days. And I still think that they're doing it out of some misguided belief that it will cause new players to want to buy them more, because when there's more detail in their situation, contrast paints work better, right? When there's a lot more detail, contrast paints work better. And when there's not, if it's just a big flat area or smooth area, like on a lot of Space Marines, contrast paints don't work as well, or speed paints or whatever. So I do sometimes feel that they're putting a lot of extra detail in there. So when you slop a bunch of contrast paint on there, it looks better than if you didn't. Contrast paint works really great on fur and scales, lizards and stuff like that. But yeah, on flat stuff, not so much. I included a link to the Warband Builder app for Space Weirdos. That could have done it. Like I said, links. YouTube does not like it generally when you put links into a comment, so that could be part of it. I have a real soft spot for the old Rogue Trader 2nd edition metal models. Love painting and single piece casting. Nice. I'm now searching for the Warband Builder app for Space Burritos. Yeah, I had no idea there was one. That's pretty cool. Like an app or like a website thing? Or is it like an app on your phone? Haley, how you doing? Display models instead of gaming pieces, right on, yeah. Blanche box set, but I remember more Mike McVeigh from my youth. Nice. I had perfectly innocent comments spin off into the ether after hitting the post. YouTube is weird sometimes. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Patreon just links it all to the Wargame Vault for free now. So you get the Wargame Vault PDFs off the Patreon. Really? I had no idea. I thought you would get them direct out of like something else. I didn't. That's super smart if they do that, because then you're right. Then at that situation, you do get the backups, or not the backups, but the updates. I didn't know that. I've had BattleTech Total War updated for 5 years now. Yeah, yeah. I remember the Mike McVeigh being the face of heavy metal in the pages of White Dwarf. That's maybe in the early. Well, no, wasn't John before him though? I don't know. I read John's authorized biography. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. VJ Morph, how you doing? Home from work after a long weekend of 3 shows back to back. Time to chill. Nice. I want conventions focused on the activity, not a wild nerd party. I'm looking at you, DragonCon. Well, yeah. I mean, DragonCon, from what I understand, I've never been, but I do understand that it is basically a party. I mean, Vegas is like that a little bit too. Obviously there's big tournaments going on and there's classes. They definitely expanded their hobby classes this year because they basically handed it off to somebody else. In the past, they've tried to run and facilitate hobby classes, and because they're so focused as a group predominantly on the tournaments scene, it's kind of an afterthought, right? So now it's too bright. But so there's this group, company, organization, I'm not quite sure, called Verkos Vault. Verkos, I believe. Verkos Vault. And it's the strangest thing. So, okay. So there's this guy whose name is Gary Sparks. I don't know what it was he did, but he is allegedly a billionaire, according to, I think, Wikipedia. Like with a B, billionaire. And he's super into miniatures. And so he's been buying painted miniatures from like famous painters and stuff like that for a long time. And now they're in the process of building a museum in Vegas for painted miniatures, which I believe will be called Verkos Vault. Anyway, they ran the big painting competition at LVO this year. There were 2 painting competitions at LVO this year. There was the Verkos Vault big one. And then a smaller one, but it was the first year for doing it, was Army Painter had an army painting competition. So you could bring in your army. I think it was either on Thursday or Friday. You'd bring in your army. It was on Thursday. And they would you'd enter, and then they would take pictures of it. They had like a photo area set up, and a guy that was a photographer. His name is Josh, who actually is on the Independent Characters podcast. They paid him to come in and take pictures. And so they had 32, 33, 34, somewhere in there, entries of people who brought in this year. And then the best of show got $1,000. So it was pretty cool. There's really amazing looking armies in there. But it wasn't like, we're going to set this stuff up and leave it here all weekend, because a lot of people were like, I brought this army in and now I have to go play in the tournament. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like that. But next year that'll be bigger as well. It's called the Army Painter Challenge. And but anyway, yeah, the Verkos people had a big painting competition as well. Sam won a medal. He won so it's interesting. A lot of competitions, like in at Nova in DC, it's not like it is at Golden Demon. At Golden Demon, you're in this category, and there's 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. Everybody else goes home. Just that's the way, and that's what they call a podium style. And then there's open style, I guess, which is basically like, if you hit a certain number of things within the judging rubric, then, there could be 5 people who got gold and 4 people who got silver, and then 3 or 7 or 12 people who got bronze or whatever. And that's kind of the way they do it at Nova Open, right? Verkos does this one like a mixture of the two. There are there are like, it's open, so you've got multiple people getting bronzes, multiple people getting golds, multiple people getting silvers, whatever. But then of the golds, they take the top 3, and then there's a gold, a silver, and a bronze, which is confusing because you're like, oh, I got a gold and then 1 bronze, which is basically what what Sam did. He was in the gold level amongst a bunch of other people, and then he was in the top 3 of that level and got bronze, and someone else got silver. And then at the end of it all, there's a best of show for the entire shoot match. But yeah, so Sam didn't think he was going to medal, and he did. So he was really super happy about that. So that was cool. He's got a cool, I've got a picture of it, but he's got a big cool, like, coin like this big. Plus also I think Verkos bought his piece so that, to put in the museum, which is also very cool. So yeah, up until about 2 years ago, I'd never heard of these folks before, but they're becoming a big thing in the, in the miniature painting, display painting specifically, kind of zeitgeist. I don't know. Only con I really want to go to is Adepticon. I went to Comic-Con once and realized I'm not a con person. Yeah, Adepticon is my favorite convention, just hands down. Even better than the other one, than Gen Con, which is far larger. Now, all that being said, after all that was done, going to being in Vegas and hanging out and talking to people and stuff like that is a lot of fun. It's a good place for it. But honestly, that can happen kind of anywhere. Travel, lodging, parking, food, game tickets, those are all the necessities. Shopping list and stick to it. Alternatively, take notes on things you want and order them through your FLGS later on. There's definitely some of that. If they're not giving you a discount at the convention, which very frequently they're not, but sometimes they are. But if they're not doing a convention discount, if you can get it through your local store later on, it's not a bad idea. There are very few convention exclusives anymore, but sometimes there are still convention sales. Depends. Did you share your LVO loot? I didn't really buy much this year. I bought some urban mechs for Battletech. I bought some texture things to put on your bases from Gamergrass. And I bought something else, and I cannot remember what the heck it is. I bought a Las Vegas magnet for my mom, too, to put on the fridge. Wonderfest is a great model kit con with a big section of wargaming and small models. Loved it. My favorite con at the moment. That's cool. I don't know if I've heard of it. Blacksite Studios has a pre-order for new plastic astronaut sets for Lunar Up Now. Oh, that's cool. That's very cool. Missing the narrow gauge and modeling the railways of Queensland conventions. Not been to gaming conventions. Costs change depending on days attended, merch, extra activities, travel. Yeah, for sure. Toronto area girl reports nosebleeds here. Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, right now, like even though it's pretty cold in the winter, it's 16 degrees Fahrenheit and it's winter and it's very bright and sunny. It's still 64% humidity according to my watch. So, there's a free Quar PDF download available at the moment. I think it is full of lore in case you haven't spotted it. Nice. Good evening from Bahrain. How you doing? Are there any notable hobby supplies or tools you saw at LVO that are noteworthy? We met at Nova Open in 2018, and I'm thankful for your work for the hobby. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. There was this thing. These guys across from us had this thing at this booth. So it was like a metal base. Not like a miniature base, but just like a big metal thing. It was kind of flared, so it didn't move around. And it was concave? Yes, I think it was a concave. And then there was a big metal sphere that you stuck into it. And then sticking out of that sphere was a metal post, right? So skinny metal post. And the way it looked to me is it was designed so that if you needed to like stabilize your hands, you would adjust this sphere and the stick to put it where you want so it would hold you and you'd be like, okay, cool. And then you could paint and it would be poking you because it was kind of pointy looking, honestly. And I'm like, I don't know, that doesn't look great. Well, then somebody went over and talked to them and then came back and said, oh, it's not for poking you. You're supposed to, when you hold your hands together like this to paint, right? You're supposed to put it in between your two hands and it's supposed to help stabilize you and stuff like that. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I'm just still not getting it. Like, I don't know. But it was neat. It was well built, but I was just like, I don't know. But, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So that was interesting. They also had some other like little gadgets that are kind of cool for scale modeling and things like that. But otherwise, I didn't really see anything like tools or hobby wise that was like Baron of Dice was there, Catalyst was there, Army Painter was there, Monument was there. Trying to remember a bunch of other places I hadn't seen. There was places selling dice bags. There were places selling like a cool like leather bags and stuff like that. GW obviously had a big portion of the area. Play on Tabletop was there, selling merch and stuff. Blackout was there. They were selling things. That was cool. And they were running demos and things like that. It was a decent vendor hall area. I thought. Oh, and I hung out a little bit with Squidmar. Yeah. The Verkos Vault people brought him and two other guys from his group or whatever over. And then there was a night, it was after the GW preview, they had a bunch of us content creator folks up into some suite up on the 20th floor or whatever, and they gave us drinks and snacks and stuff like that, and then did our presentation and all that kind of jazz and whatever, and that's where I met Squidmar. He's a little taller than I am. He's probably about Sam's height. Let's see here. Speaking of Quar, I'm anxiously awaiting the box with the short guys and their tankettes. Nice. Looking for economical and practical modern military vehicles for in-country. Not enthused about buying STLs. I only want to buy to print once. In-country. That's modern, right? That's not like World War II or anything like that. That I don't know. That's a good question. 28mm scale modern vehicles. Yeah, I don't know. Because if it's World War II, you're like, well, obviously, like, you know, Warlord and those guys do great work. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. Two conventions I go to in London, Salute and Dragon Meat, are like 15 to 18 pounds. Thank the Lord. There you go. Best TMX was 2019. So many good folks. Missed your little crew that did the paint swap. Absolutely. Not even for alumni? No. University was cool as we stayed in the dorm rooms. Was fun, like nerd camp. A little bit, yeah. What's the closest airport to Oshkosh? Probably ATW. Appleton. ATW. But also GRB. But then GRB is Green Bay, and that's probably a 45-minute drive. And I want to say that ATW is 25 to 30 minutes. The fan run con I spent a decade helping run is up to $75 for 4 days. Might be also might be the last year, so I hear you. $30 for 2 days, dirt cheap, and I'm looking forward to TMX this year. Nice. Strangely enough, I doubt I'll be allowed into the U.S. for the next 4 years. Well, Hash House a Go-Go. That's what it was called. It was Hash something. Yeah. I didn't eat there this year at all. I don't know why. I ate there last year, though. It was good. Going from Austin, Texas, painting medieval minis for Lion Rampant. I seem to be failing most of my rolls to activate the point that I feel like the real medieval soldiers were cowards. Oh, wow. I mean, I could, maybe. Can Games here in Ottawa was held in a convention center in the 90s, but since about 2000 moved to Curling Club due to costs. Oh, curling, like with the big rock thing? Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of cons fail because the venues have become too expensive. The venue costs force them to charge prices that even if they just break even, the ticket is crazy. Yeah, no, I can understand that. Because it used to be for TMX, I think I used to charge, it was like $15 for the entire weekend or something like that. And I felt fine with that. But yeah, it's having to move to the convention center, though they are nice to work with and they're good. It's not as awesome. Good morning. Painting a Swamp Thing 3D print this morning. How you doing, Lucent? Let's see here. Over 28 hours, 2 stops, almost 10 times my week's rent and return. Oh, that's not, yeah, that's not, that's going to be difficult. I get that. You must be very far away if it's going to take that long to get to Appleton. Let's see here. Hi, Uncle Adam and Minions. Hope all are well. Getting back into the saddle after 4 months due to wrist issues. Yep. Managing 20 minutes at a time so far. Well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. Good to hear it. Bought some of the new squat Hearthkin warriors on a whim yesterday. A whim. Gonna spend the morning building that. Yeah, I like some of the squats. They're fun. Star Wars Legion was being played too. Oh yeah. You're right. Star Wars Legion was being played at LVO. I took video. I did. I took video of it. It wasn't in the big room. It was in one of the cider rooms, but it was still. Yeah, you're right. Who else was War Scenery was also in the vendor hall. Those guys from Germany who make all the cool STLs and stuff like that. And they were telling me that a bunch of the terrain that was being used in there was made from their stuff. So that was cool. Let's see here. Any specific plans for those urban mechs? I'm gonna paint them up as inner sphere, just like with my other inner sphere guys. That same color scheme, and then use them in where did this little tiny gnat come from? It's January. What are you doing? I'm gonna use them in Alpha Strike. Let's see here. A lot of other games were spread out behind other GW games. Also, I think the biggest thing you need staff to run events, and sometimes that is an issue. Sure. Heard the Penguin series is good. Would you recommend it? We've watched the first 2 episodes so far, and it's pretty good. I think it's only 8 episodes. Like, the Penguin is Colin Farrell, who's Irish, Scottish. I don't know what he is, something like that. And like, the makeup is astounding. Like, it's just like they can get really close, and it just looks so real, and it is so crazy. And he does astounding work. It's really amazing. And also the story is just really good too so far. Like, it's really surprising. I think there's an urban mech scenario Uncle Adam plans on playing. No, I just think I'll throw them into a list at some point just because they're kind of cool. I like them. They're stocky and they're fun. Really digging American Primeval. I don't think I'm familiar with that. Best rust effect I've achieved is using Citadel Typhus Corrosion with a dry brush of either Riser Rust or Trolls Layer Orange topped with silver metallic dry brush. Hello from a wet and windy Coventry, UK. Got myself a copy of Space Weirdos. Nice. It's a good game. That Rob Human, how you doing? If the sculpts are too detailed, then that's discouraging new hobbyists. I mean, you're probably right, except that, again, if you do just slap a bunch of contrast on it, it looks better than if you just did it on a flat model, but I don't know. I can't imagine why they're doing that unless they're just trying to prove value by saying, hey, look how detailed these are. But most painters, especially high-end painters that I know, are like, there's too much detail. I can't do anything. There's not these cool spots for me to do like any cool blending tricks and make, because everything is just covered in detail. And that's I don't know. What's your favorite hex or grid-based miniatures game? I don't have one, really, because I don't like hex and grid-based miniatures. I want to play more hex or grid-based because I detest about games as measuring. See, I don't like I don't want to play Battletech because it's on hexes, and I like Alpha Strike because you don't have to play on hexes if you don't want to. Most people don't, from what I understand. The only grid-based game that I think is okay, personally, is like Halo / Firefight, just because it just takes the tape measure out of the way. But, so you're moving and you go, oh, I'm going 2 squares. But then where you land in that square, where you put your figure, is actually important. If you're putting it over to this side where you're behind this piece of scatter terrain, that's different than just being like, oh, I put it in this square. Like, to me, when it's a grid-based game or a square, like a hex grid or a square-based game, to me it feels more board gamey at that point, and I'm just not as interested. So, but different strokes. Good morning from Pittsburgh. How you doing, Life Blighter? Hope the day finds everyone well. And in between trips at work, fell asleep on the couch yesterday and missed your regulars. Oh, that's a bummer. I fell asleep on the couch last night. Excuse me. I'm correct that if you want to just go to Adepticon for the day to look at the vendor booths and people's models, you don't need any kind of ticket. Right. Yeah, they don't charge you to go in and just look at stuff or buy things. Yeah, you don't have to. Like, they're absolutely happy to have you come in and buy things from the vendors because it makes the vendors happy and the vendors want to vend more next year. So charging somebody to come in and buy stuff doesn't make a ton of sense, but, you know, that's the way that a lot of other conventions have to do it. But Adepticon's been smart enough to put themselves in a situation where they don't. I think during the first show back from the pandemic, they did charge people to come in, but it was just literally so they could make sure that they had the vaccine and all that stuff, because you had to show your vaccine card and all that kind of jazz. But since then, they've gotten rid of it again. The app is a website. Oh, good. That's good. Any new games that have caught your eye? Like at LVO in general, or because not so much at LVO. I didn't see anything there that was a new game that caught my eye. It was nice to see, like, Blackout had a nice big booth. It was probably like 10 by 20. And they were running a really big table was a really cool looking demo table and stuff like that. And they had stuff that they were selling, so that was neat. There was them. There was GW. There was BattleTech, but there weren't a lot of games. You know what I mean? Like, everything else was more like stuff and merch and things like that. Well, there was the Frontline Game has their own game. Frontline Gaming has their own game now that's called Blood Throne. I guess technically they were there as well. Yeah, for sure. Got my invite for shipping for Trench Crusade and confirmed. Now the waiting begins. Nice. That's pretty cool. What gets painted in Vegas stays in Vegas. I mean, technically it was painted in Wisconsin and then taken to Vegas and then stayed in Vegas, but yes. Forgot to set a notification for this. So what are we talking about today? I just kind of talking a little bit about LVO. I was there last week, and that's why we didn't have the show last week. But the benefit is that now, because the show's on this, we got off the cycle that it was before. I want to double check this again just to be sure. When it's late March and I go to my next trip, which is at that point going to be Adepticon, then the every other Sunday show will be the week before Adepticon, and then the next one will be the week after Adepticon, so it won't screw up the schedule. The next time that the schedule might get screwed up would be... no, not TMX, because TMX is on the 7th and 8th, and every other Sunday show will be on the 1st and the 15th. What about Gen Con? I don't even know when Gen Con is this year. I know it's beginning August, but it's always hard to tell. Gen Con. Oh, goodness. It is the 31st to the 3rd. God, their website's it's kind of ugly. It's not, I don't know. It's not, anyway. Badges are on sale February 9th. So August, what did I say? Huh. Yeah, so I won't miss an every other Sunday show for Gen Con either. This is great news. So we should be on the right schedule for quite some time now. So that'll be cool. That's good to know. How fortuitous that the internet didn't work very well at the Rio. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Morning from windy and rainy Alaska, finishing a mob of Skaven storm fiends. Nice. Spent the whole weekend at LVO entirely engaged with hobby activities. I didn't engage in any wargaming at all. Papa Nurgle blessed me with con crud, so I'm fighting that off. I came home with a cold, but like I said, didn't really come home with a cold. I think it was more that I just ended up with a cold. I still might have got it by, in Wisconsin and not in there, but it's hard to say. It's better. It doesn't sound better, but it's better than it was yesterday and better than it was Friday. Let's see here. I'm a local, so I was there early with the Verkos crew helping set up. Yeah, I didn't get a chance until later in the convention to go down and take a look at all the stuff, but it was a good setup. I'm glad that they're doing it. Am I crazy, or all Combat Patrol, Kill Team, and even 10th edition rules free? So the core rules, yes, are free. You can get the 10th edition core rules, you can get the Kill Team core rules, and I think Combat Patrol, Combat Patrol uses the regular 40K rules, but there's also some extra stuff that you can download. But yeah, it's all in the download section over on a Wargame Vault. No, not Wargame Vault. Warhammer Community, whatever this is. You go to the big yellow button over here that says Downloads. And then you've got 40K stuff, Kill Team stuff. So if you go to 40K, then you've got core rules and key downloads, indexes. I don't even know what Grotmus is. It sounds silly. And then there's a Combat Patrol section here. And so Combat Patrol rules, Combat Patrol. So you can see like, oh, here's the Combat Patrol for the Sanguinary Spearhead. And it'll download it and then show you. And then you're like, oh, yeah, look at that. So, So yeah, all that stuff's for free to download on which is nice. It's smart too on their part. So that's a good thing. But yeah, that's over on Wargame Vault, or it's Warhammer Community in the big yellow download button over on the right side. Verko's brought in a charity this year brought on charity. Oh yeah, no, I know charity. Yeah. Who runs the hobby stuff at Adepticon to help them expand that part of the convention. Yeah, we talked with her quite a bit. She's great. How's your mom? I don't think I've ever asked since a few weeks after her fall. She doing okay? She's doing okay. Yeah. I never got to chat with Adam, unfortunately, but I talked to a fair bit with Phil and Sam again. Nice. Yeah, it was me and Phil and Sam were there as the factory team. Seeing Nick behind the glass makes me think he got the Zod treatment. He's fine. He's just hanging out back there. Hello from St. Jacobs, Ontario, Canada. We love going to Hot Lead in Stratford, Ontario, Canada in March. Nice. End of March. Neat. So hoping to link up with my stepbrother during Adepticon. He lives in Eau Claire, but he's going to be in Florida house sitting our folks' place while they run off to Australia. Ooh. Kelly, how you doing? Trying to figure out what the rule set to use with some werewolf versus mutant corporate lackeys in the jungle in the old White Dwarf rage across the Amazon and collecting old Ralpartha minis for it. Ganesha Games. I don't know how it's pronounced. They're the guys that make Song of Blades and Heroes. They have a variant of Song of Blades and Heroes called Fear and Faith, I believe. And it's kind of almost a bit of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of, well, not really, but it's about werewolves and vampires and junk like that and stuff. So yeah, I would maybe take a look at that. Wouldn't be a bad skirmish version for that. It's pretty easy to use. I 3D printed my own ball vise with a hand stabilizer. I prefer a work holding setup with stabilizing add-on rather than a dedicated hand stab. I picked up some loot at LVO, some Artist Opus brushes, and a bunch of display figures from Zabart, Hex Figures, Scientific Models. Yeah, you're right. There were a bunch of different companies that are selling display stuff, which I'm not particularly into. But Creature Catcher was there as well. I forgot about that. But yeah. Well, heck. I mean, can't we? We should just be able to go to LVO vendors. So let's see here. Use this plus scroll to zoom in. Ooh, look at that. So, okay, so you'd come in this main entrance here. There was a bunch of tables there, and there was like a place that was selling drinks. Then there was Frontline Gaming. They were mostly selling used stuff. Tabletop Titans, right? They're the guys that make you unfold it, and then it's got like pop-up terrain in it. Parabellum, forgot that they were there. Yep. Griffin's Lair Game Shop was a local game store. Zabart, Horus Hobbies, Mr. Laser. I do think I walked by Mr. Laser at one point. Tabletop Terrain. Oh yeah, they do a lot of nice 3D printing stuff as well. Like they mainly sell stuff that's already printed. They don't sell STLs. They sell you. They ship you printed stuff. And then War Scenery. I've worked with them before. They're nice folks. I painted up a bunch of their little cool. What the heck are they called? They're like Heretic Legion type sort of guys. You know what I mean? Nico Galaxy, I don't quite remember that. Squad Marks, those are the guys where you snap the little things on the underside of the bases so you can keep track of who's in what squad. Pine Bay, I'm not sure what that was. Misty Mountain Gaming, there's a lot of dice trays and stuff like that. Baron of Dice is big. Monument Hobbies. Broken Egg, yeah, I've bought terrain from them before. And then Artist Opus, and then Army Painter was here. Baxter's Vault was at a local store. Mindwork Games is selling a lot of display stuff. And then behind that was Catalyst Game Labs. My Four Sons was a local company. Bloodthrone was the game from the Frontline Gaming people. Lightspeed Hobby, I think, was the company that was selling that weird ball with the thing and all that kind of stuff, plus a whole bunch of other stuff. Gamers Grass had a big booth. War Room Games, I don't know what that. Chronicle, those guys, yep, I know. Sergio and stuff like that. Creature Caster back there. Play on Tabletop had a big area. I don't know what Battlecraft was. Games Workshop had a monstrous thing. Norse Foundry. Blackout was over here. Transatlantic. Free League is in like RPGs and stuff. Warlord Games was back here. Somewhere around here there was a guy doing tattoos too. That was interesting. Was it by Free League? I don't know. I felt like it was back here somewhere. Oh, maybe it was over here. Yeah. Traveling Tattoo Collective, now based out of Vegas. Better Friends Tattoo Company. That's where they were, right behind Baron Dice. So yeah, it wasn't there wasn't a lot of gaming companies per se necessarily, but there was definitely a decent size stuff. Yeah. So we had this is like a 10 by 20. Like these are 10 by 10s. These little square ones are 10 by 10s. These are 10 by 20s. I don't know what this size is, probably 30 by 30. And then Games Workshop just had this monstrous area over here. So let's see here. All right. Who or what is Verkos Vault? Sorry for the ignorance. I didn't know either until relatively recently. So like I said before, there's this guy who evidently is a billionaire. His name is Gary Sparks. And he started this thing called Verkos Vault, and they're building a museum for miniatures in outside of Vegas, I think. Well, I don't know exactly sure, but they're in progress on that. So Deep Pockets, I guess, is mainly what it is. He's been buying miniatures from famous like display painters for quite some time, but now it's becoming a bigger thing, and it's all going into museum stuff that they're building. Got some War Games Atlantic Werewolves from my amazing wife. Go Bills. I have no game for them, but she knows I'm not made of stone. Nice. Werewolves are fun. Rubicon does some military vehicles at 28mm. They're also the most expensive solution. Let's see here. I'm late, but I'm here now. I will have to watch it on replay. Absolutely. The museum itself is still in development, not open for public viewing, but they also have an admin building where they host a number of artist classes. Yeah, I've heard about that. They also have a local paint club. Nice. Where's he reading the comments from? Twitch? No, I'm just streaming on YouTube. I'm just way behind, as per usual. Because someone asked a question, and I talk about it for a while, but comments keep going, so yeah. Colin Farrell is Irish. Gotcha. I wasn't sure. Do you have any recommendations for settings for FDM printers? Cobra 2 Neo. No. We're printing a bunch of terrain for Battletech, Gradient Terrain, mechs look bad where supports connect. Yeah, so I've got a Bamboo Labs printer. That's the only thing I'm familiar with. And the thing that I'm using, the profile, I guess is the term you're looking for. The profile that I'm using is basically the profile from Fat Dragon Games. I'm using a 0.2mm nozzle and the profile from Fat Dragon Games that they've put out about the best way to print miniatures or whatever on the Bamboo Labs A1. That's what I'm using, but I don't know about a Cobra. Going to Salute this year, and I'm going to get involved in everything on offer rather than just buying stuff. Nice. Agreed, the cube-based system on Dead Zone Halo is excellent, was a big selling point that got me into the game. Like, I don't mind measuring, I really don't. But I have a rust mix made with GW paints that's fantastic. Riser Rust, Seraphim Sepia, and a dash of Agrax Earthshade. Huh. I hate Blood Bowl, Uncle Adam 2025. I mean, I don't hate it. I'm just not a sports guy, so I'm not into fantasy sports either, you know? If you determine that AS... Alpha Strike. If you determine that Alpha Strike is not detailed enough, I would look at Death from Above Wargaming's BattleTech Override rule set, blend of AS and classic BattleTech. I think I've heard about that. One of the batches of figures I'm working on are the models I got in '83 for a long-forgotten GW game called Spacefarers. Huh. Making people buy a badge to shop is a security thing and encouraging ticket sales. Yeah. If you crush some orange pastel chalk into your rust paint, you can get some really good texture. Yeah, or just, or rust pigment stuff, buy that too. Let's see here. I don't mind hex-based games. After all, I started out with those old Avalon Hill bookcase games like Panzer Blitz and Panzer Leader. Sure. Adepticon dice, small batch, fancy, and $12. GW dice for $33. That's crazy. Yeah. I don't disagree. What's going on? Is the slide still up? What's going on? What do you think about painting Reaper bones? Do you like the Reaper series of minis? They're so cheap and great for TTRPGs. You have to try to prime them with something other than a rattle can. That's what I've found. If you use a spray can on them, they will be sticky forever. So you have to prime them with like an airbrush or maybe a brush on primer or something like that. That's the one downside. What was I doing wrong? I was doing something wrong. Sorry. Yeah, I have the Discord turned off. Let's see. Just finishing painting the Army Painter starter set minifig a few hours ago. My first ever painting a minifig, about to start the second one. Looking forward to becoming part of the community. Well, that's very cool, Vincent. The Army Painter starter set is awesome. Honestly, the new Fanatics starter set is really, really good. I like the King Arthur version of a song in Blades and Heroes. I have several Reaper minis perfect for running a Monty Python Holy Grail campaign. Makes sense, yeah. As I've collected more of the Mutant Chronicles minis, it's wild to see how some of the Resurrection and Eternal models ones varied from the originals. Huh. Hypothetical, but how much would they need to offer to get an Uncle Adam model in the museum? Oh, I mean, there would be no reason they would want one of my models because I'm not that good of a painter. There would be no reason that I could think of. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, how much would it cost? Like, if they were gonna buy, I don't know. Like, I think that like high-end painters like Sam can command a decent price. Thousands of dollars potentially. I don't know, but especially when you think about how long you work on something like that and everything like that. For my stuff, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. The problem that I have is this: I really can't sell models once I've painted them. It's, like a model that I've built and never painted, sure, I'll sell that, no problem. But once I've painted it, even if it's for a game I don't play anymore, a game they don't make anymore, and I'm just going to sit on it, I still don't want to sell it. I don't know why. I think putting the time into it makes it that I don't want to sell it. I got a Bambi A1 after your comments. I have both thank you and curse you. It's a fantastic printer, but man, I'm going to need another house for all this terrain. Yeah, that's why I stopped printing a while back, and I've been painting just because I had a bunch of stuff already printed and primed, and then I was like, I should probably paint this stuff. So I did, or I have been in the process. Not a sports guy at all, but I absolutely love Blood Bowl for some reason, mostly the video game and painting the models, but still, sure. I avoided Blood Bowl for nearly 20 years. My brother really wanted to get into it, so I bought a team. It's one of my favorite games now. I always hear good things. People who love it, love it. You know what I mean? Been doing Gunpla repaints recently over working on my Trench Crusade models. Gotcha. You had the intro slide up for a while. You're good. Oh, I must have. Yeah, okay. I'm definitely not a sports guy, but I do have some Blood Bowl. Do love me some Blood Bowl. Really bad at it, but I love the chaos and how swingy it can be. It can be very swingy for sure. Incredibly excited about Adepticon. Can't wait to see the new venue, but man, flying to Milwaukee from the UK pretty much doubles airfare. Really? That's a bummer. I mean, would it be cheaper to fly to Chicago and then rent a car and drive to Milwaukee? Because it would only be about an hour's drive. That's, yeah, flying directly into Milwaukee could be like, sometimes I used to be like, well, I'll drive to Chicago, which for me is about 3 hours. I'll drive to O'Hare, park, and then fly because it'll be cheaper than if I was to fly out of, say, like Green Bay or Appleton. But sometimes nowadays it's about the same price when you get down to the end of it. And honestly, it saves me 3 hours drive, you know? So, because yeah, I remember flying someplace one time and I had to go down to Chicago, but the flight was early. So I drove down the night before and stayed in a crappy hotel, like a really crappy hotel. and then got up super early and then went and flew. And yeah, it was a lot. Looking at other options, any locals have tips. Like I said, my only tip would be to maybe try to fly into O'Hare and then rent a car and then drive it up the hour to Milwaukee. I don't know if that'll save you a ton of money or not, but well, if you're talking about it doubling the cost, that might save you some money. Not that good of a painter gets gold and best in category at Nova. Yeah, but it was in the Apprentice. That's the thing. See, they at Nova they have three different what do you call them divisions. So there's Apprentice, there's Journeyman, and Master. So guys like Sam and Vince and all they're in the Master category. I was in the Apprentice category because it was my first time ever doing. Though I've been painting for 20 years, it was my first time ever doing a display piece. So the guys were like, yeah, you should probably enter an apprentice because it's your first time. I'm like, cool. So yeah, I got a gold in the apprentice category. I would have gotten probably nothing in the journeyman category. So yeah, it's a little different. Let's see here. I switched to printing tooling instead of terrain and minis because I have better or more flexible tooling will make it easier for me to paint, right? Printing tooling. I don't know what you mean by printing tooling. I want Blood Bowl novels. Could be fun. I mean, I'm not a lore guy, so I'm probably not the guy to ask. Bamboo has done some crap recently. Look it up as it may not suit you. I've heard a lot of people talking about it. I'll be honest. Like, to me, it doesn't have much effect. Like, people are like, oh, you can only use the cloud now. And I'm like, I always use the cloud. Like, it's super convenient. I can be sitting up here and be like, oh, I want to print some stuff. And as long as I know that the spool, like, I don't usually leave my spool on my printer. So it's not like I can just on a whim decide to print stuff. I have to at least go downstairs and put the spool on the printer, And then once that's done, I can come up here and use their slicer and get everything all set up and then hit print. And then I hear the machine down in the basement start printing because it plays a little song first. And then, that's so that for me, there's no change. Evidently, they made it so you can't put the stuff on the little SD card and plug it in anymore or something. I don't exactly know. So far, I'm not affected by it. I guess other people might be, I guess then, I don't know. I think that if it's one of those things enough people complain about, I could see them walking it back, or maybe they won't. I don't know. But, you kind of have to vote with your wallet. Never O'Hare. What's wrong with O'Hare? Well, I mean, I haven't been there in a while. I'll be honest with you, but, by keeping an eye on it, you're not wrong, but I think it's been really overstated by the internet hype engine. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. Like, somebody makes a change, and then somebody's like, oh, well, that's kind of a bummer. And then that's somebody who's listening to that person saying, that's kind of a bummer. Is like, ooh, that's content. And I just don't want to get on that particular bandwagon. So, yeah. Outrage Machine is in full swing about it. I would hold off on getting a bamboo printer, sure, but I would also wait for cooler heads to prevail in times of knowing what the implications really are. I wish Blitzbowl was sold in game stores. Yeah, I don't know why they don't do that. Have you ever tried Malifaux? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I played in 2nd edition. I tried to get people locally here. I had 2 squads or crews. I had Victoria's and Van Schill, like fully painted and the whole deal. And, man, just could not get people around here to give a crap about it, which was a bummer because it's a cool game. I was looking at coach options. Hadn't considered car hire. I mean, yeah. Like, that's the downside over here in America. We're like, yeah, trains are dumb. which I think is the worst. So like trying to get there actually may be a train from Chicago to Milwaukee. They just don't come much further than Milwaukee, but there might be a train from Chicago to Milwaukee. There might. I don't know. You might have to look into it. But otherwise, rent a car. That might be not a bad idea either. I don't use the cloud. I'm on LAN only, and it works fine. I have no idea, honestly. I just know that, well, I know that I'm on my computer up here, and then I tell it to print, and then it goes, and I think it's on the cloud, but maybe it's just on the LAN. I have no idea. Whatever. Issue pertains to restricting what was previously an open system. Many people I know, myself included, prefer to use other better slicers like Orca, for example. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's, you know, I find that this slicer works great for what I want to do with bamboo. I don't know why they would decide to sell other slicers they can't be using. I don't know what the reuse is. But again, corporations can be bullied. It does happen. I own also a Cricut, one of those cutter machines for cutting like vinyl and all kinds of other little things and stuff like that. And several years back, they were like, oh, hey, we're going to make it so that, you know, because they have a subscription service, so you get access to all the different designs they have. But if you make your own designs, like an Illustrator, save it as an SVG file, you can just print it directly. Not print, but cut. You know what I mean? You don't need the subscription service. Well, they basically came out several years back and were like, oh, hey, we're going to make it so that even if you make your own designs, you have to use a subscription service. And then the next day they were like, okay, we take that back. Please stop yelling at us. Like, it was like a huge outpour of people ticked off. Like, I saw it and I was like, and I was going to deal with it later. And then by the next day, I got another email from the CEO or whatever being like, okay, we're sorry. YouTube did the same thing probably about 5-6 years ago. The little check mark that's next to my name down below the image here, where the video is, means that I hit 100,000 subscribers, and then you can get verified, and then the check mark means this is the official Tabletop Minions channel or whatever, or the official Vince Venturella channel or whatever, but you can't get it to your 100,000. They were going to change it so that only like known named people like Coca-Cola, they could get a check mark. Jason Momoa, let's say, you know, like famous people could get check marks, not just anybody over 100,000. And they announced that, and then I was like, oh man. And then I was busy doing stuff, and the next day they're like, all right, please stop. We're not going to do that. We're walking it back. So, you know, maybe bamboo could be bullied, but whatever. Let's see here. Restricting. One way or another, we're being forced to accept a security hole by sending data across the world to use a machine that would only be 20 feet behind me. Inefficient to a suspicious level. Yeah. I use the cloud for so many different things that it doesn't bother me as much, but again, different strokes. For the more tech-minded of us, I can recommend the Ender 3 V3KE. That's a lot of letters. It's got a lot of the features of the bamboo, but the control of a project printer, and I did figure out how to use a 0.2 nozzle. I just like how plug and play the bamboos are. So for me, that's, you know, but again, also a Mac user. So, you know, throw your jibes as you will. Bags lost, missed connections, anything has gone wrong has been involved in that black hole. O'Hare, I haven't been there in a while. So yeah, I can understand that. The Hiawatha goes from Chicago to Milwaukee. I've taken it. It's great. That's a train, I'm assuming, right? Yeah. Amtrak. There you go. See? I'd say give it a year and the slicer issues will settle down. Could be. I remember the Cricut thing when Adam Savage goes, Ein Minuten bitte, you know you're in trouble. Yeah. How do they even have a product if you can't use SVGs normally? Like, it was, yeah, they were like, no, seriously, like, not enough people are subscribing, so you subscribe, even if you're making your own stuff. And I'm like, and then a lot of other people went, no. And so, yeah, they were like, okay, all right. Always bully corporations. I agree. That should be a t-shirt. Chicago to Milwaukee, Amtrak, 1.5 hours, no changeover. Cost varies, but it looks like $40 to $80 round trip. All depends on the line and the departure and the return times. Nice. There you go. See? Clouds are for rain. I mean, sure. I mean, like I said, I use a lot of cloud stuff, and I'm generally okay with it. I want to play Malifaux, but nobody seems to play anymore, at least near me. I don't know how well 3rd edition is doing, to be frank with you. I don't know. Like, I know that I've seen their booth at Gen Con dwindle year after year, but I don't know if that's directly correlated to anything or not. I don't know. Think of it more of a resistance than bullying. Generally, companies are the bullies. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I think it's semantics at that point, but yes. I've already seen 3D printer. Molly, the Ender 3 V3KE is the piece of crap that didn't work for... Oh, you were talking about that yesterday. That's the one you were talking about? Yeah, okay, all right. Cannot recommend that hardware under any circumstance. Already seen 3D printer hobbyists complain about Bamboo Applefying 3D printing, gatekeeping. Yeah, I mean, you could just... Like I said, as a person who's been using Apple... Now, I mean, I've always been an Apple laptop user, and I've been an Apple phone user. I used to be a PC desktop user, but at the beginning of 2024, I switched to this M2 Mac Studio and really kind of love it. It's always funny when I go back to my PC down in the basement and it's just constantly like, hey, Copilot, you want to be using Copilot? We're putting it down here in the little thing. And you're like, I don't care. I don't want that. And they're like, yeah, but we put some ads down there too. And you're like, stop it. So, yeah. I don't know. I think that I have no problem with them saying, look, this is kind of the thing. If it gets to a point where it becomes egregious, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to someplace else. And that's the thing too. But, I don't know. But it's like I said, for me with the A1, just being like, here is the thing that I want. Please print it. It works. That's for me the most important thing. Whether or not I can use a specific slicer to me is not as big of a deal, but to others, just your mileage may vary, and so that comes down to a different opinion as far as like what you want versus what I want and all that kind of stuff. I want convenience and simple, and I'm willing to deal with the fact that it goes on the cloud if I need to. I'm a P1S user, don't like the forced cloud interaction. I had Clipper on my prior printer, don't know what that is. I'm assuming some sort of piece of software, and don't see any benefit personally to inserting a cloud server between me and my printer a room away. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't see the issue, but if you don't want it, then definitely you shouldn't use it. Wins to LAN only and it works perfectly fine. Okay, well, there you go. Nobody seems to have learned from the CrowdStrike disaster last year. I mean, that was... Sure, I get that. The update is fortunately opt-in currently. Gotcha. I like to bully corporations if I get the opening. Sure. I've been through 2 IT qualifications, but I've never trained on Apples. Like I said, I always have been an Apple laptop guy, and I used to be always a PC desktop guy. And I was an Apple laptop guy just because... They just make, I think, some of the sturdiest, most easy to use laptops. PC laptops were always, in my opinion, always really super noisy and plasticky and stuff like that. And the Apple laptops were like a block of aluminum and like milled perfectly and like very, very quiet and all that kind of stuff. Like I would be rendering video on my old Apple laptop once in a while at work, and it would make like no noise. Like you could barely hear the fan. If you put your ear against it, you'd be like, yeah, I think the fan's running, but that was about it. I've not heard a single noise out of this M2 Studio, no matter what I'm doing, rendering video, doing whatever. It doesn't ever, like, I know there's a fan in there. I've seen pictures of it, and I know it does spin up a little bit, but I cannot hear it. So I like that a lot too. But that's just a personal opinion. Sometimes I flirt with PC gaming, never ends well. Still, that Warhammer Total War series tempts me. Yeah, those types of games are hard to play on a like a console, just because you need a lot of keys and it's a whole thing. A lot of folks claiming to speak for all 3D printer users about the Bamboo stuff, but a lot of us Bamboo users are just fine with it and carrying on printing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I went from Creality to Ender to Bamboo. Very happy with the Bamboo. Not really chuffed about the security changes. Cloud, someone else's computers. Yep, that's what they are. If somebody had STLs that violate IP law, what legality of that being on the cloud? I don't know. I guess the question is, why do you have STLs that violate IP law? I mean, for me personally, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to print something that breaks IP. The question, secondly, then is how, like, are they gonna, like, I guess the question is, are they going to look at every STL and go, oh, that's maybe an Adeptus Mechanicus guy from Games Workshop. We're going to send you a nasty letter that says cease and desist. I don't know that anybody at Bamboo's got the time. I don't know what the benefit or the downside is to doing it. I don't know. I don't know that they want to go through everybody's stuff and look at it. I don't know that that's the case. They probably don't have the people to do that, more likely. But I don't know. I don't know why they changed it. I think there's also more perspectives than, oh my God, light them on fire and Bamboo are our saviors. Well, sure, yeah, there's definitely a spectrum in between there for sure. After they lock down their system, Bamboo can start charging you to use their slicer. I mean, if they want people to use their printers, they probably ought not, but, you know, it's up to them too. Because then the thing is that at some point somebody will produce something that's about as good as Bamboo and not charging, and then, you know, we'll see how that goes. I don't know. There's a lot of panic farming going on. That's the internet in general, I think. We have Mac Minis at work that run Photoshop and our printing program's easy enough, and then a PC at home for gaming and home stuff. I prefer PC, but I've been on Windows since I was a kid. I've been on Windows since 3.1 or 3.11, somewhere right around there. And again, like, I went to school for graphic design, and everybody I knew was on Macs, and I was like, yeah, but I also want to play games, so that's why I bought a PC. And they're like, yeah, but you can't do graphic design on a PC. And you're like, well, actually, you can. Like, 1995-ish, all of a sudden, like, Photoshop and Quark Express and stuff like that also started working on PC. They started making versions for there. And then, you know, since the late 90s, that has never been a problem. It's just like, it's on both, obviously, and you can use either. And for the longest time, I was a PC desktop guy because of gaming. But then I got to a point where I was just like when I'm using Final Cut Pro to edit my videos on this machine, I can make a 15-minute video. And when I tell it to render, it takes 60 seconds. Like, that's it. Have I ever had it not work? In a year, at this point, almost 13 months. I think I might have had one bad render. And friends of mine who are on Adobe Premiere Pro, renders take forever. Now those people are generally also on PCs as well, but I don't know about a Premiere Pro on a Mac. I've got a friend who does, I've got a friend who's an editor who does Premiere Pro on his Mac, and he has trouble. So, you know, it's different software, different things, all things, but nonetheless, I have had nothing but positive on this machine since I bought it. I've been really super happy with it. So, let's see here. It's been 3 years since you covered weird art games. Are you still into that stuff? I recently started building my turnips and I'm having a blast. Weird art games. You mean like, well, I did talk about Turnip 28. I need to take a good hard look at Swill. I still support Turnip 28 on Patreon, but I haven't taken a look at Swill. Swill is kind of their skirmish game, but it's a different vibe than what I originally thought it was going to be. It changed sort of drastically. But I do want to take a look at it. Otherwise, like the games that I'm interested in these days, like indie games, you know, you've got Space Weirdos. I like that a lot. Vince and I have been making our own indie games. I'm really interested in 1490 Doom, which I've been talking about a little bit here and there too. So yeah. Which is the prettier paint, Black Legion or Black Templar? I think they're both black, but which is one's more transparent than the other, isn't it? I don't remember which one it is anymore, honestly. My first computer was a Commodore 64. I could never convince my parents to buy a Commodore 64. I wish I could, but thing to me about the Bamboo printer is like, if you really want, you can probably just swap out the Bamboo motherboard and hack the thing. Yeah, could be. I know almost nothing about PC and smartphones, only that I don't need or want either. Gotcha. Adobe products are kind of trash nowadays. They are. They are. I'm actually very interested in, because I have this program called Pixelmator Pro, which evidently Apple bought recently. So there's Pixelmator Pro and Pixelmator Pro and Photomator, something like that. And I kind of should be starting to check those out. Photomator Pro, I believe, is basically kind of like Lightroom, which is honestly the only piece of Adobe software that I really still kind of like, mostly. Lightroom is for like taking a look at a lot of your photos all at once and then being able to go in. It's like the opposite of a darkroom. You basically can kind of develop your images. You shoot them in RAW, let's say, and then you go through and you tweak stuff and blah, 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 all that kind of jazz. Lightroom is still probably one of the best pieces of software that Adobe makes, and it's still... and then Pixelmator Pro is basically kind of Photoshop, but different. And instead of paying like X amount of money per month, like Pixelmator Pro, when I bought it, was $50. You buy it, $50, you're done. But now Apple's bought it. It'll probably stay like that, to be perfectly frank, because Final Cut Pro is you buy it once and you're done. Like, I bought it and it was $300, and they updated from 10 to 11 recently, and there was just free upload. One of the coolest things, and I don't know if any of you have noticed this in some recent videos. I did it again in Friday's video. But there's this neat new feature they've added into Final Cut Pro called Magnetic Mask, where it's like a plugin. You click on it and you drag it over onto the window where you're editing, and you'd put it like the dot like on me. So I'm sitting here in front of the camera at the studio and whatever, and you'd put it on me, and then it kind of basically makes me all red just as a color to choose. And you can kind of slide the dot around. If you slide it down here, maybe the top of my head doesn't have red, and you get it to the point where I am isolated from the background and covered in red. And then you tell it to analyze the short clip or whatever you've picked. And then it goes through and it hits every single frame, and it basically rotoscopes out the background so that I can put something behind me. It looks like I'm on a green screen, but I'm not. It's like does the green screen thing without you being on a green screen. If the camera is not moving, it works perfectly. If the camera is moving, you might have to go in and tweak it a little bit here and there, not much, but it's amazingly good. So there's been several videos over the last month in January and whatnot, where like stuff's happened behind me or whatever, or, superimposing a little bit and things like that. No one's mentioned it in the comments, which is, but it is so fast. Like, the thing where I'll take like a clip that's 10 seconds long and I'm cut out and like perfectly, even the hairs on my head are cut out and all that kind of stuff. It takes like 60 seconds to go through and analyze that whole thing. It's really fast and cool. So I like it a lot. Let's see here. Where is my mouse? There we go. What changed your opinion on Battletech Alpha Strike? I remember you were unimpressed when you demoed it. I just bought the starter box for a video because I was talking about different two-player starters for like wargaming for under $100. I bought it and I thought, well, I'll paint them. I'm still not 100% sure that it's going to really be awesome or I'm going to love it, but I think it's still interesting. So I'm honestly, it's also because I know some people locally who want to play too. So that's also a benefit. So, let's see here. My biggest problem with Bamboo is how it nukes my tuned filament profiles when I upgrade firmware. Inquisition 28 and Turnip 28. Swill is so cool looking. I got the stuff from the Patreon too. There's a large expansion to Turnip on the way. I've been hearing about that. Yeah. Used to work in an office where the office manager did the accounting on a DOS machine from the 80s in 2005. Wow. I built a boat for scabs and need to make a swill tank. I watched somebody... I think it was it Bill making stuff? It was one of those guys. And I was watching him make a scabs boat, which was kind of neat, yeah. Got my sister a MacBook Air so I don't have to support her, and it works with her iPhone. You pay the price for Apple. Yeah. That being said, the Mac Minis, like the new Mac Minis, the M4 Mac Minis for $600 are astounding. They're the most powerful machine you can get for $600 by far. It's crazy. But meaning to check out the Affinity Suite. Yeah, Affinity's not bad either. If you're trying to get rid of Adobe, Affinity Suite, there's Affinity Photo, Affinity Design, and Affinity Publisher or something like that. Those are pretty good. Yeah. I just know I need to go through and make sure my files are ready for conversion. Gotcha. Whoa, Picard is better than Kirk. What are we talking about here? Hey, you watched Secret Levels on Netflix yet? Only the 40K one. I watched that one, but I haven't watched any of the other ones yet. I know you Americans love to defend the rights of the corporations. Oh God, I love corporations. I don't know where I'd be without them. But if I design a model, I want to be able to print it without Bamboo or GW deciding if it looks like something that they made previously. Again, I don't know that Bamboo or GW is going to be able to poke through your stuff to figure that out. Bamboo, if it's on the cloud, might. But again, do they want to? Do they? I mean, I don't know. I don't defend the corporations at all. I'm not a big fan of corporations. Let's just say that. And I am an American, though, just because I was born here. But Curse of the Azure Bonds was my big D&D game on the Commodore 64. Yeah, man, I really wanted to get. I had to buy myself my first computer when I was in college. I bought a 386 in 1991, but I could never convince my parents to get a computer. I mean, they did eventually get a computer down the road, but yeah, I could never convince them when I was living there. I got a video recommended to me of yours that was about 10 years old where you said you would name or otherwise personalize your miniatures you game with. Do you still do that? Sometimes, yes. As a matter of fact, if you look in Friday's video, I did a little B-roll shot where there's like, what are the three models? There were three models in the shot. There were two models that were, I think, GW models, and I forget what the one on the left side was, but the one in the middle was that Chaos Space Marine with the spike coming out of his, with the skull stuck on it from that video from 10 years ago. I still have that guy. He was the guy that did the tank shock with the multi-melt, or not the multi-melt, the regular melta. He did the tank shock, or no, the tank shock was tank shocking him, and he did whatever that thing was called back, not Death from Above. Death or Glory, whatever it was, where basically if you were being tank shocked, you can kill the thing potentially if you do enough damage, yada yada. And so that him from that video, I still have that guy. And then the guy that was on the right, like my hand comes in and sets that guy down. It's one of those red cultists that I painted for Zona Alpha. So yeah, I still do that a little bit. I want to start doing it. I think with the BattleTech mechs when fun stuff happens there, that'll be kind of cool too. Did you demo Halo by Mantic Games? I did at Dragonfall in October in Lake Geneva. Yes, at the Dragonfall convention in Lake Geneva. I have the recon set, and I've painted all 8 of the dudes, and I just haven't gotten a game of it since then, though, yeah. Apparently, Affinity also has a good sub for InDesign, which is rare these days. Yeah, so when designing stuff for Snarling Badger, going through Wargame Vault, they have like a knowledge base of like, this is how you design things to be published through our system, and you are either like using InDesign or Affinity Publisher. Those are the two options where they give you information. So yeah. Let's see here. Oh goodness. Hobgoblin and 1490 Doom are both filled up fast at Adepticon. Oh, I bet so. Yeah. Best secret level so far is Pac-Man. I've heard a bunch of people being like, the Pac-Man secret level did not need to go as hard as it did, but it was really amazing. So I do want to watch it eventually. One more aside about InDesign and whatnot. Believe it or not, Chrome is actually coming out with a lot of features recently to make it a much easier experience to do layout in HTML and CSS. That's kind of cool. All right. Well, folks, it's time for me to get going. I have to cough. And also, eventually we're going to lunch over my in-laws, which I didn't see last week because I was in Vegas. So, hang on. There we go. All right. So thanks to everybody for coming by and hanging out. I appreciate it. And it's fun to talk about LVO. It's definitely in my top 4 conventions. It's between Adepticon, Gen Con, Nova, and LVO. I feel glad that I'm able to go to them. Pretty much lately, at least it's been nearly every year. So that's been very cool. It is also nice, though, to get home and kind of recharge the social battery because it does get drained going to these big conventions. So thanks to everybody for coming by and hanging out and talking and chatting and all kinds of stuff like that. I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you're interested, come by, watch that. And then, yeah. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing my thing. And like I said, we'll be on this schedule for every other Sunday now for quite some time because it's going to skip over Adepticon, it's going to skip over TMX, and it's going to skip over even Gen Con. So it should be well into late August because that's when Nova is. Wow, I think I'm even going to jump over Nova. Yeah. No, wait. Sorry, I was in the wrong month. August. Yeah, because Nova's usually on Labor Day. Yeah, I think it's even going to jump over that. Wow, that's crazy. It just finally got into the groove properly. Thank goodness for lousy internet. All right, so we'll see you folks again soon, and thanks to everybody, and we'll see you later on. And that's pretty much it. I don't know what else to say. Thanks for watching.